Hi guys, I'm here with Jessica Toft, and Jessica is a lot of things. We were chatting through her hats, and I love how many hats she has. She is the wife and mama of four. She is a certified yoga instructor and a health coach, and she also homeschools by choice every day outside of quarantine her four kids. Right? And Jessica, how old are your kids?
They are 12, almost 13, 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3, almost 4-year-old.
Okay, girl. Okay, so she's got the full gamut, and the point of this video call really is just it was kind of on my heart to bring some encouragement to everybody. When this whole quarantine thing started, Jessica was the first one to text me links, ideas, encouragement, prayers. She had all the things for me, and it made me feel so much better about taking on something that I was not expecting, ready for. I didn't ask for it. I'm not educated or equipped to do it, I don't feel like. So Jessica was very encouraging to me. I watch her do some really amazing things with her kids. She's great on social media, and we'll touch on how you can follow her at the end of this. But I really just want to bring her on so I can share that with you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm super
Yeah,
excited.
my whole goal really is just to kind of encourage all parents that are now thrown into this kind of homeschooling, distance learning thing. And they're like, oh my gosh, I have to recreate, school at home. And that's just not the case. Like, we really don't have to recreate the classroom at home. And you are equipped. So, like, you're fully equipped to school your children. That was one of my big fears when I started homeschooling, was that, like, am I even capable of this? Do I have what it takes to homeschool my kids? And you don't need to be an educator. You don't have to be an actual teacher to homeschool your kids. You can use everything, all your resources that you have. A lot of the schools are providing you guys packets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're getting some of that part done for you a little bit. Like, they're providing you with the schoolwork, and thank goodness for Zoom, right? Like, my kids are
Yeah.
even doing some Zoom classes. So you're really just kind of leading them and helping facilitate their own learning.
I
And,
love that.
just as equipped as you are to be their parent, you are as equally equipped to homeschool them. But it is a big difference between choosing to homeschool and now having to homeschool. Like, everybody
Right.
has to do it.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to. At first, I thought, wow, look at us, we're homeschooling. And then I saw a couple of homeschool moms post, like, hey, P.S., you're not really homeschooling because, like, homeschool, we get to go on field trips and we get to,
Yeah.
we get to go do things. Like, we have, bonus classes or enrichment classes, and we get to go to dance and gymnastics. This is not the same.
No.
However, so I don't want to put them in the exact same category, but essentially now for the rest of the school year, what it sounds like, right? Not necessarily official, but what it sounds like is that we are going to be distance learning with our children. And I feel like if we take the avenue of, like, no, we are home, like, take that role on, we are homeschooling them now. But
Yeah.
as long as we have some tips and tricks that we can really lean in and enjoy it, right? Because I think it's an opportunity to teach our kids way more than math and English. So
Absolutely.
first question I have for you, and then again, you can take this wherever you want because I know you have a lot to share. So the first question really for me, I'm so scheduled and I'm so to-do list oriented. So, of course I had like a chart on day one before Friday night was over. I was like, okay, from 8:30 to 9 and 9:30 to 10. And what do you think about a schedule? Yes, a schedule, no, a schedule. Are we flexible? Are we firm? What do you think on that? What do
Um,
you guys do?
all of the above.
Okay.
I
Okay.
say absolutely to a schedule. And the reason I say absolutely to a schedule is that kids thrive off of routine, and they're used to a schedule already at school. It may vary from day to day at school, and they might do different things, but just knowing that in general kids thrive off of a routine, it's important for their sake and for your own sanity to have
Mm,
somewhat of a schedule. So we have a schedule, but it's not set in stone. Like, you're going to have that flexibility on the days where I know you working like full time and having to run around and do things and take calls
yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. That's not going to always jive with your perfectly written out schedule. But it's
Yeah.
good to have those as a guideline, as a general, like, this is what we do if it ran perfectly today. And if it
Okay.
doesn't run quickly, you scratch the schedule, you switch it up, you go outside, you don't go to the playground because you can't do that, but you go outside, you take a walk, you change
Yeah.
scenery. That's usually what we do if we have like a not so much on the scheduling day. And then the next day we try again.
Oh, I love that.
So
Okay, good. Okay, and then while we're on the chat of schedule, I know I'm wondering, and I'm sure a lot of other moms and dads are wondering, like, our kids go to school for, 6.5 to 7 hours a day, right? Do we need to be schooling them for 6.5, 7 hours a day? What
no.
what would you say is like an appropriate um, amount of hours that we should be spending maybe at a table with a computer or a pencil and a paper in our hand? Like what's the average like hours you spend on school work?
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to vary depending on kid, depending on their age, depending on their kind of their personality and how long they can sit still and things like that. But they're definitely not doing a full 6 to 7 hours of academics at school. So I
Yeah.
feel like one of the things that I want to address is that was my fear, is that I was going to have to sit in my kitchen or at a table with my kid for 6 hours and
Yeah.
teach them. They are so not doing that in public
Yeah.
school or any kind of school. There's a lot of time eaten up with classroom management and recess and getting in line and getting, back to your seat and then going to
Yeah.
lunch. And then now we're going to the library. The actual instruction time is so much smaller, even in a
Hmm.
classroom environment, that
Yeah.
hopefully that relieves some of that pressure. So for my kindergartner, we do maybe an hour of like at the table working on sight words, and we read, so just very little, if that, and sometimes even that we break up into little breaks, just because an
Okay.
hour is a long time for a kindergartner to like
Yeah.
sit and work on something, unless it's art and fun.
Right.
And so we kind of substitute. Then she does other fun things like kinetic sand or plays with beans or more magnetiles, those kinds of things that she's still learning. And I'm not letting her sit in front of the TV, but
Hmm.
she's not working on academics that need my help.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh, and then like my third grader, she will probably spend, I would say, about 2 hours on schoolwork a day. And that's it. She can knock out 2 lessons of math, grammar, language arts, writing, even knock out some reading, all within a
Okay.
couple of hours. And very little of my instruction time with her. There's very little. Like she
Yeah.
is mostly just independent at that age. I feel like by second, third, fourth grade, they're kind of independent.
Yeah.
You should be nearby if they have
Hmm.
questions on something, or maybe you're teaching them a new concept. And then they kind of take it from there. And then as they get older, they just spend a little bit more time on schoolwork. My
Yeah.
seventh grader, he's been on Zoom calls all day. Like he has class after class after class today of just his enrichment classes.
Hmm.
But when he's not doing those, I would say he spends about 3 hours on schoolwork.
Okay.
And so it's a lot shorter than you think. It's not seven
Yeah.
hours.
I feel like the first week I was like, we've got to be in school from 8 to 3. And I was very
No.
like, everybody was unhappy. It wasn't working. So I feel
Yeah.
like now that I've adapted, and that's pretty much what we're doing too. Like I have a kindergartner, and honestly, he's really, really like easy and self-motivated. So we can sit at the table. I kind of lay out what his assignments are from the day. And of course, we're getting all the resources from his amazing school. But I would say about an hour. And then for the rest of the day, we're doing other stuff that um, is more just family
Yeah.
stuff. So okay, so after these hours, that's a perfect segue actually. Then what? Like what else are you doing with your kids to ensure that they're learning and growing? Because I know I have that fear. I feel like my kids were getting so much. Now they were at Adventure Christian, so they were getting
Yeah.
so much poured into them biblically and socially, and like, and for me that's what I'm mourning, right? I love having my kids home, it's fun, and I love having that time with them, but that's where the non-equipped feeling comes in of like, what else do I need to be doing with my kids? That's life character building. Like what else are you doing?
Yeah. So I think a lot of that just comes naturally with parenting. So for us, we try to squeeze in a devotional time, either before lunch or after lunch, like a quick little devo from our church or from youth group, something like that. But that doesn't always happen. Like I said, the schedule does not always flow beautifully every day.
Yeah.
But there's so much like opportunity to fold laundry with your kids. And while you're folding laundry or doing dishes or cooking, two things can happen. One, they're learning that life skill with more time in the day than maybe you had before, when
Yeah.
they're only home from school and then it's bedtime. So now, middle of the day, if they're done with schoolwork, you can teach them life skills. My kindergartner can fold laundry like Marie Kondo style. Like, she does
I
so
love
good. I
that.
do not fold any laundry anymore. They can do
Yeah.
it. But while we're doing those things, we're either listening to worship music or we're having those character building moments where, brother hit sister and now we have to talk about it and we have to
Yep.
hash it out. We have to go through that conflict and resolution and all of that. And so that's happening with you, and you get to be a part of it. And so even though those things happen at school and that's great, I think it's so much more valuable when they see mom kind of involved in that and they learn
Yeah.
those traits from their parents. And I
Yeah.
mean, from other people it's great, but it's really special when they get to learn it from you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Um, okay, what are some of your best practices? So when you first started homeschooling, you've probably done a lot of trial and error. So what are some of your best practices, the things that work for you? And obviously every family is a little bit different, but share with us kind of what brings you and your kids the most joy and ease in your days.
Yeah. So kind of back to the schedule thing, we have a pretty set routine for the morning that
Mhm.
whenever that kind of doesn't happen, we have kind of a chaotic day. So it really
Okay.
starts in the morning.
Yeah.
So similar best practice to, for any work at home parent or an adult, is to get up and to get dressed. So my kids have to get
Mhm.
up, they have to get dressed, even if we are going nowhere.
Okay.
They get up, they have to make their bed and get dressed before they can even come down and have breakfast. For our family, that's what works, because once they come down those stairs, it's hard to get them back up the stairs to do what they need to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's just kind of a general rule of thumb, is
I
that I
love
try
that.
to have everybody up around 8ish. They get dressed, they do that, they come down, they have their breakfast, and then usually after breakfast they do their morning chores. So that's usually like unload the dishwasher, take out the garbage, that
Okay.
kind of thing. And then
Yep.
9 o'clock, they all know 9 o'clock is schoolwork time. So they bust out their books, they've gotten dressed, they brush their teeth, just like we were going to leave somewhere, but now we come to the table, and it kind of just sets that tone that it's time to work.
Yeah.
Um, Whenever we just kind of like skip all that and they come down in their PJs, which is fine. Some days, that's the beauty of
Right.
homeschool. You can do that some days, but it's a lot harder to get them to focus and
Oh.
really like set that tone of like, it's work time now, because they can't
Yeah.
differentiate without leaving the house. It's hard for them to
Right.
differentiate that, like, but it's playtime, right? No,
Right.
it's
Right.
Saturday, isn't it? No, it's a school day.
I love that. That's a good
Um,
one.
so the routine is really big. And then for us, sometimes I need with my 3-year-old, he's obviously not really doing school. He'll color, he'll draw, those kinds of things, but he needs distracting if I need help, like say my 3rd grader. So I will partner up an older kid with a younger kid, if need
Oh.
be. So sometimes I will have an older one take him and go play Magnet Tiles, like go do it together if he's having a
Yeah.
hard time playing independently.
Mhm.
That way I can be present and help another kiddo. And then we just kind of trade off
Yeah.
on who's going to do that duty, so to speak.
Yeah, I
And
love that. That's a good one.
they get a chance to be responsible too, like if it's your older kid and they're kind of babysitting,
Yeah.
um, they take on that role. And then we already talked a little bit about like the schoolwork varying by age or grade, but I just think that it's important to know that, that like your kindergartner doesn't need 6 hours of
Yeah.
schoolwork. That is going
Yeah.
to overwhelm them. Um, and then incorporating exercise, that's part of our like daily, and that's really dependent on your schedule, your kids, the
Yeah.
weather, but
Mhm.
there's so many. I think that one of the beautiful things of all of this is that we've been able to really see how much is out there, like that
Yeah.
we have access to, like how
Yeah.
many fun online workouts for kids, or how many more people are going on walks now. Like that's,
Yeah.
you go outside, you go for a walk when it's nice out, and there's so many people walking outside. It's just
Yeah.
kind of a beautiful thing. So
Yeah.
incorporating exercise, and then again back to the routine. When it's lunchtime, we kind of, usually schoolwork is done by lunch in our house. So
Yeah.
we're done with most regular academic time,
Okay.
and we have lunch, and then we go straight into silent reading, because they kind of need that downtime let their food digest a little bit,
Yeah,
and go straight into quiet time. And that's my favorite time of the day.
I bet.
um,
That sounds
right.
amazing.
Um, so when I make it like mandatory, that it's quiet time, it allows there to be a little bit of quiet and peace in the house that might not happen if it wasn't like set in stone on the schedule kind of a thing.
So 2 questions on that. So no
Yeah,
devices during that time, is that correct?
absolutely not. Correct.
Okay, and then what does your 3-year-old do during that time?
He has to sit on his bed and look at
Look
books,
at
or
books. Okay.
sometimes I will have, so my kindergartner, she doesn't last the 30 minutes of reading that we usually do, but
Yeah.
she will read her, like her little Bob books or her little
Okay.
kindergarten books to younger brother.
Got it.
And
Perfect. I love that.
there's some of the, hey, now are we reading, are we paying attention, and I might
Right.
have to be with them and reading with her during that time sometimes, and then
Yeah.
they'll go on to maybe blocks or something kind of quiet, and then when everybody's done reading, that's when we either jump into exercise if we haven't already done that yet, or they get to have their devices at that point
Got it.
for like a small window of time before we go into anything in the afternoon, like if we have to run errands, or mom's got to work on stuff and they
Yeah.
want that free time or whatever. So
Okay. I love that.
yeah.
Okay. What about when you wake up and maybe one or multiple of your kids is just not feeling it? What do you do about those days where, and sometimes it's maybe you, right? Like I know I had a day the other day where I could just feel it. I was not in a mood that felt like being very patient and loving and educating. I just wasn't. And my kids were feeding off that really quickly.
Yeah.
So what do you do about that if you ever have those moods? I always see you looking pretty happy, but I don't know,
Oh
you're
no.
human. So if you have those moods, how do you reset yourself? And if you have a child that comes down with one of those moods, what do you do about that? What are some practical ideas that we can do to reset the jive in the house?
Right. So, you know, for us before social distancing, we would just change our scenery. Like we would have, if we wake up and we're having a bad day, like it's just, I feel like maybe I'm, to my point where I'm not going to last much longer
Yeah.
with a happy face or being, super calm. We just change the environment. So sometimes that means like we've gone to a coffee shop before to do schoolwork there. That's not
Oh,
an
okay.
option right now, but outdoors is if it's nice outside.
Yeah.
So sometimes taking your kids outside can just completely just flip the whole scenario,
Yeah.
um, or flip the schedule around. Like, let's get dressed. Let's go do our walk first. And
Okay.
everybody, we're just going on a walk
Yeah.
and clear your head. And if when you get back, you think like, okay, now can we start over? Then let's start over.
Hmm.
Um, or, I've had days where honestly, I just just scratch the whole day.
Call it a Saturday.
Yep. Uh-huh.
I love that.
And I've had, a lot of times on Friday, by Friday, they're done. I'm done.
Yeah.
I have a lot on my to-do list that kind of built up over the week that maybe I didn't
Hmm.
get to. And so they get, I kind of like reward them, like you knock out your math today and you can be done. Like, or,
Yeah.
like
Right. Yeah.
all your chores done, you knock out this assignment, this one assignment or something. So we're still doing a little bit and you can have free time, as
I
long
love
as,
that.
so yeah, we
Just
have
having
bad
some
days.
grace, right? And just kind of flexible grace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other tips and tricks? Anything else that you think is important to share with parents who were not planning on this being their everyday lives for the next few months? What can you share with us?
Yeah, I just think grace, really, like have so much grace for yourself,
Yeah.
because you just got thrown into this, which is totally different. And you haven't had the time to digest what even homeschooling or distance learning looks like.
Hmm.
Your kids have barely had time to process it. And you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like when we chose to homeschool, we had all summer long to talk about it, what it was going to look
Right.
like, and to kind of plan and prepare. And you guys,
Yeah.
a lot of people didn't. Now they're just
Right.
thrown right in it.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like just a lot of grace. Just give yourself grace because
Yeah.
in reality, we're almost done with the school year. There's still those resources. If your kid's behind, so is every other kid.
Yeah.
But they probably won't be. I think that most people are pleasantly surprised at how much their kids learn at home,
Yeah.
how quickly they can, blow through those packets. And you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
you can actually get this done pretty easily. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, good. I think that's an important one too. I'm glad you said that. I think that's huge. Just having grace with ourselves and the situations. I also love how we're seeing so much collaboration right now with the online workouts and
yeah.
all that stuff. So thank you again so much for taking the time. I know you have a lot going on at your house, a lot of kids to take care of, and I appreciate you for taking the time to chat with us today.
Of course, thank you for having me. I hope everybody feels encouraged by this. And, it's hard, especially if you have to work full time. So just a lot of
Yeah.
grace. So,
Oh, friend, you're amazing. Thanks again. Hey, if people want to get a hold of you and they have more questions, how can they find you, like on Instagram or something like that?
yeah. So I have a fun little nickname, Jekka. So Jekka Hecka is my Instagram and my Facebook. So,
Awesome.
yeah, you can find me on there.
Perfect. I'll tag you when I post the video. And thanks again for being amazing and just being open to sharing with other people. Like I said, you were such a blessing of light to me in the very beginning. I think you sent me something from another homeschool mama about homeschooling high schools, which was my biggest fear, right? High schoolers.
Yeah,
I can handle kindergarten. But
right.
high school as a whole, that's where I really was feeling like, okay, I'm lacking. Like, I'm not ready for this. And what it said was in this time that more important is your relationship, not the
Yep.
education. At the end of
Yep.
the day, your kids will learn, they'll be okay.
Yeah.
The
They will be okay.
relationship is so much more important. And that just put me at ease. So thank you again for sharing that with me. Thank you for
Yeah.
everything you've shared. Thank you for everything you do. Awesome,
Oh, thank
mama.
you, Jamie. You're such a
Oh,
blessing.
thanks, friend. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.